Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley, made by Wild Wes for the wonderful game of Farming Simulator 15. We are planting our next year's crop, and we're kind of in a steep field to be doing it here. As you can see, the ground just kind of falls off. It's late at night as I record this. And for the better part of the day, I've been doing one of my least favorite tasks in making these videos, and sometimes it's funner than others, namely editing. I'd much rather just make the video, probably because it involves literally playing the game, versus sitting at a computer screen and trying to take something that's terrible and make it somewhat palatable. That's right, folks, they are even worse when they are recorded. Okay, we almost have this particular field licked, and I've been trying to keep an eye also on our sheep. We got 600 of the fellas now. And wouldn't it be interesting if the game would actually render all 600 of them in the pasture? I blow up my computer. I think it caps at a certain count, although I'm not certain just what that count is. Maybe it's up to 25. I remember looking into that one time for Farming Simulator 17. And maybe it's the same for it here for 15. Alright, one more strip and we are done. And I think what I'm gonna do is, just before I take this puppy in there to plant kind of the southwest corner of the map, field 42, I'm gonna drop it up here briefly because I am close to the sheep. And so I'm going to come down here. Yeah, can't you just see all 600 of them? Aren't there so many? Well, there's a few more. But I think I need to feed them just a little bit. So I'm going to come put whatever I have down here into the trough. I know I have a number of bales. Oh my! Oh, good thing I got a powerful tractor. It didn't wince once. And you know, I think I still have some out in the field that was cut. And you know, I bet it's going to let me put a whole, it'll probably let me put this whole blooming thing in here now. There we go. There we go. I don't know if the fill plane on this trough tracks with... Oh yeah, it's letting me put in a ton. I might want to change the color. I don't know what would change the color of the grass to the yellowish bit there. Oh yeah, let me put the whole thing in there. So, okay, 23,000. That'll help them go for a little while longer. I will drop this over here. I was just kind of watching it in prior episodes and noticing it was getting a little emptier. It was down to a couple thousand. And I'm going to need to go find me some more feed at some point here. But I only have this vent. Oh, I only have it for another half hour. But I think I'm going to have to continue the lease. I should have had more hours. I can't remember if it was 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was. It was way too little. Alright, let me get... Oh, my goodness. I'm bound and determined to bust something on here. There we go. Alright, let's head down to the corner and we'll get this field planted. I was also this evening trying to download, well, I managed the download. I downloaded a map of a friend of mine made, and was going to give it a try. It's a 16x map made for Farm Sim 22, and for some reason I am not able to sometimes have the game load, Farm Sim 22 that is, via normal means. You know, it should. I don't know, I don't seem to have any trouble loading up these older ones. And I have loaded Farm Sim 22 before, I just gotta do it a certain way. And, you know, it did open once I did it that quote certain way. But when I tried to load my friend's map, the game just quit for no good reason. Ah, see, I gotta, oh, look at that. There's a big old gash right there. Maybe need to move those closer to the map. Just trying to make it look, maybe if I look at it from the side, but then I can't see to drive. Yeah, here the rocks are basically touching the edge of the map, so it looks a little more normal, I guess. Alright, you bad boy, let's see you climb the hill. We'll see how good a job this does and whether I selected the right tractor for the job. I have a feeling it's going to start protesting once we get up on this slope, starting now. Yeah, he's pulling it. I guess it is still 6 miles an hour. Basically the speed of a combine. Yeah, we'll get the job done, but it will be the typical arduous task. You know, I wish when the game loaded that if there was an error in a mod, or if errors were generated, that it would just, that there could be a setting that you could just have the mod disabled so that it at least would let you load the map, load the game, unless it's a map itself, of course, that has the error, you know, in which case it, you would reject it. But sometimes, you know, if you have a couple hundred mods in your mods folder, it can kind of be, you know, then you gotta start the old search and remove process to figure out who is causing the trouble, you know, which particular mod. Oh my. We should be so lucky to have such problems, huh? Are these what are called first world problems? Almost making around. I kind of am hoping I can get this all seated just on a single load in the tank, but I guess we will find out. Down here to the, whoa, kind of skating here, funny. Okay, I think I'll take another round while I'm at it, just to give myself a little space to turn around, and then I'll set up GPS and start doing the old back and forth. I tried to dump more apples over in the fruit stand, and it didn't accept any more, so I must have done that right as I saved from the last session, as we still have more in there to sell. It's going to be a slow process. Oh, and I'm remembering something. You know what? Let me take care of it right now while I'm thinking of it, because I think it pauses while we're in here. I have wanted a chainsaw for the longest time, and I'm going to get one. It's only $1,000. Oh, you can't even rent it. I'm going to get a Husqvarna because when I worked on Lone Oak, we logged their canyon for a couple summers, and the chainsaws that we used were Husqvarna. Alright, we'll round the bend down here and climb the hill. Alright, up we go again. Anyway, continuing the theme that I had from the last video, that I've been boring everybody with are things done only once in my life. Um, I think the last one I talked about was good old Disneyland and SeaWorld, kind of a rite of passage for many that live in the U.S. And yeah, we never took our kids there. My wife and I didn't, and personally, I don't need to ever go there again. And some of that is just philosophical. But the next item that I had on here, yeah, kind of brings a bunch of memories. It says here, I went to Sitka, Alaska on business. I think I've mentioned before, I work in the field of public accounting, and most of the clients that we have are fairly local to where our accounting firm is. I mean, we're just a small little firm here in the capital city of Oregon, and most of our clients are in the capital city area or in nearby towns, but we do have a few clients that are out of state. We still have a couple clients, that are up in Alaska. We have some in Washington. I don't think we have any in California. We have some clients that do business in other states, but I'm thinking of their primary place of abode, residence for their business or whatever. All right, now let's dig out the big guns. Okay, this is... That's gonna be... Let me just go on down here. I'm gonna give myself another strip here at the base, and then we'll start uphill. That should give me a little more space to be turning around here. We'll do the GPS kind of on the long edge. And with the digital age in which we all live, and given the nature of an accounting type product, it's pretty easy to serve someone no matter where they are on the planet anymore. It really is. And that ought to do. Get that going. And so, but I mean, I think we tend, our business is very relationship driven. Lots of businesses are, of course. And you tend to make relationships best with people that are in your own backyard and neighborhoods. So most of our clients here are local. But we occasionally have had some out of state. Here, a number of years ago, we served a company that had a whole bunch of fishermen up in the Gulf of Alaska. I think that's primarily where they did their fishing, mainly for salmon, black cod, and halibut, and some various other kinds of aquatic life, if you will, from the ocean. And they had their headquarters in northern Washington in a city up there called Bellingham. And that's about a 6-hour drive from here. It's almost to Canada. It's just shy of Canada, maybe another half-hour's drive or whatever. Anyway, that's their headquarters, national, I guess, if you will. And their actual processing plant is up in Sitka, Alaska. Sitka is kind of down in the panhandle of Alaska, if you will. I really don't know how Alaska was shaped the way that it is, with the panhandle that kind of comes down the western coast of, that you would think would be Canada, but no, it's Alaska kind of coming down, and near the base of it is a town of Sitka, and it's on an island, and that just happened to be where they had a processing facility for their fish, that all their guys brought the salmon and other fish too. Well, most of the time, and we audited this company, most of the time we did it down in Washington, and we served them 4 years, maybe, something like that. And 3 of those years, we would do all 4, we did the audit from their Washington office. In 3 of those years, anytime we do an audit, we try to come before the board of directors to give a presentation, to share any findings that we had from the audit and that kind of thing. But one of those years, they asked that we come to Sitka to deliver the presentation up there. So I honestly wasn't real wild about it, though I hadn't been to Alaska ever before. And frankly, after that trip, I'm not sure I want to go back. We got set up to go there, and it was, what time of year was it? November? I think that's the time of year it was. So already you're headed into winter. The weather isn't going to be the best. And I know sometimes when people hear of Alaska, they think of cold, cold, cold all the time. But it's not. I mean, when you come down the coast, first you have the Pacific Ocean to deal with, so you have kind of a marine climate. And I think that helps moderate the climate, in a place like Sitka. But it's also in a more southern latitude. Whoa. Hello, folks. What was that? I'm not sure just why. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what that was at all. Warning. Undefined input gearbox. Huh. That must be something on this particular mod. Anyway, that's just a temporary glitch. Fortunately, it didn't crash my game. So when we went up there, it was November-ish. It's hands down the worst plane ride I've ever had in my life. And there was a part of me that genuinely thought the plane was going to crash coming into Sitka. And you land on this little island next to the island. I think it's even a man-made island just to hold the airstrip, that you're landing the plane on. I don't even remember what we flew in on. Maybe it was a 727 back when they still had those Boeing 727. Maybe it was a 737. I just don't remember. This has been a number of years ago. So not a very large plane. And, coming down, it was dark, and that plane was just whipping all over the place. I remember hearing before we went up there, that they were having heavy rains. There were winds and crosswinds, 50 to 60 miles an hour. And that's what we were flying into. And it was just nasty. It's the closest I've ever come to actually puking on an airplane. And my wife was there with me too, and we both had our hands kind of on the front of the seat, where they have that little bag in case you have trouble. It's like, oh boy, which one of us is going to need this thing, and we're going to be spilling our innards, into it. And I gotta say, it was dead quiet in that plane. I don't think we were the only ones wrestling with keeping our supper down or just contemplating life and how precious it is, because I didn't know if we were going to go down. Maybe that's old hat. I heard later that our pilot happened to be an ex-Navy guy, so maybe this was just another day at the office for him, especially when he had cut his teeth, training on jet planes, landing on a teeny tiny aircraft carrier, or that kind of thing. So that was quite an experience coming in there. I can still remember just in the dark as you got closer, and some of the lights would hit the ground and you could just see this frothing water, the ocean, right next to this airstrip. And it's like, oh my goodness, I sure hope he knows where he's taking us. And it was a pretty bumpy landing, but I was so glad to get on the surface, back to good old terra firma. It's also the only airplane ride I've ever had where everybody on the flight spontaneously burst into applause as soon as we were on the ground. and taxiing towards, the airport. So everybody else was glad to get down too. So we were there, I think, a couple nights at least. One meeting was to attend the board meeting and deliver our report. And then once that was out of the way, my wife and I, we went and got a tour of the fish facility up there, to see how they process the fish. These were things, I'd read about, before, because we were auditing them. We always asked another CPA to help us up there with some of the procedures that needed to be done on site. So, incidentally, I should have gone to meet him, but we didn't. And, Sitka, it's a town, just like any other town, but it's a small place. They had maybe 20 miles of paved road, and that was it. You got the roads in town, and people had cars and vehicles just like normal. But when you drove a certain distance from either end of town, you were done. I mean, the roads literally stopped. There was no going further unless, you chose to go up on some logging road or whatever. It's just kind of interesting, we're so used to living in civilization down here, as we call it, civilization, and roads just keep going and going and going. They go everywhere and lots of places, but, when you're out in a place I guess you could call wilderness, the roads stop and they go no further. So that's the only time I've ever been inside a fish processor, if you will. They had all sorts of machines in there, all the way from wicked looking knives to places to freeze the fish, and special things, machines to pull bones out of fish. They had a special pin boning machine to pull them little things out, just to try to, it is such a pain to pull bones out of fish. I know we all know that. Those of us that have eaten it, that can be kind of a pain in the neck, and they had machines, to deal with that part of it. And then my wife and I, we kind of went around the area, but I gotta say the weather was just terrible. It was raining cats and dogs. And, we went to a couple places. We went out to a river that went into the island. We saw some salmon spawning down in there. So there was some cool stuff to see like that. But really, I mean, oh, there, we bumped that. Really, we kind of just wanted to hunker down in our hotel because it was just kind of nasty out. I don't know that I want to go too much more in here. I think what I'll do is take a round around this thing and try to handle it that way. Let's see if I can keep. Oh, I still clip the tree. Oops. It's kind of hard to tell. Just. Oh, I think I'm in the part that's already. Oh, get around the corner. There we go. Take care of the straw. Turn on the lights so I can see where I'm going. Going home, the flight was much, much better by comparison because we weren't flying into another weather system. But I don't know. I know I commented in another video, as I've gotten older, it seems I can't handle as much as I did when I was younger, on my stomach. And, there's things like this, that just cause me to... Oh, hold on, I can't hardly do this and talk at the same time. Sorry, I'm in the trees. And get this strip taken care of. Oh, good grief. I had it raised the whole time. That doesn't work. There we go. Get this done. dip back and get at the little giblet there that I missed. So as I've gotten older, I know one airport that I don't like to fly into is Las Vegas. I've had a layover there a number of times, and I just hate flying into it. You know, and when I was growing up, I used to hear my mother complain about, I think it was the Denver airport that she didn't like. You know, there was something about the shape of the mountains or whatever that coming in, you know, it could be pretty nasty flying. And I've been into Denver a time or two, and it hasn't affected me the way she's described, but I don't know, maybe it's an age thing, because I've noticed, you know, as I get older, I have less tolerance for being jostled about in any particular way. So, yeah, I really don't have any interest to fly back to Alaska again unless I'm convinced, you know, it's in good weather. I would never last out on the ocean, that's for sure, coming in by boat. You know, in some of those places, the only way you can get to them is either by air or by boat. You know, Alaska is so closed off because the land is so rugged, you know, that there's literally no roads, you know, heading into the panhandle like that. I don't think, anyway. I'm pretty sure Juneau, which is a capital city of Alaska, is totally locked. And so far as I'm aware, there isn't even so much as a logging road that anybody could get, you know, into the interior of Canada from there. So, yeah, just kind of interesting how it is. Alright, let me get down here. Yeah, something that's curious to me too, and this is, you know, stuff that happens over time. It's history, and I know right now, well, for many, many years, the United States and Russia haven't really seen eye to eye. You know, whether it was the days of communism and versus, you know, what we have here and stuff like that, or whatever. Mankind has always had disagreements, you know, with neighbors, and it's hard for some reason for all of us to get along, at least for those that lead us. But back in the day, the U.S. got Alaska from Russia. And I don't know my history well enough to know the reasons for how we picked it up. I think in the U.S. it was called Seward's Folly. I think Seward maybe was the senator, or I don't know, somebody in the government who helped negotiate the deal with Russia, you know, where we picked up the state up there. And now, I mean, it's of strategic importance, you know, to our country. And I'm sure the Russians would love to have it back, although if you look at Russia, it's already a massive country, you know, in its own right. Who am I to say that they don't need it? But I'm sure that's not how they say it. But I do remember when my wife and I were at Sitka, you know, looking around, they had some of the history of, you know, Russians being, I think, even down in Sitka. And it was just interesting to see that there. There's remnants of it even to this day. But not any longer. Am I planting it all? I think I'm getting most of this. This is probably the bane of no-tilling and being able to effectively see where you're going. Or where you've been, rather, so you only plant it once. You know, and I do have the drive control mod in here, and one facet of that mod, if you have it turned on, is the destruction of crops, you know, when you drive over them, and I think that applies even to the stubble. So by all rights, I should be, wrecking the stubble here as I drive over it, which in turn makes it tougher to, see where you're going. But I don't have crop destruction on, so, we're able to see. Because if I had smashed all the stubble down, and this might be even tougher, to discern where I've driven and where I need to go. And yeah, once again, the light is helpful in seeing it. Got just a tiny little wedge to do, and then the rest of the field is just on the lower section. There goes the bell. Sneak down right beside the tree. Hopefully get it planted around here in this big old weed patch. Every now and again, I gotta check to make sure I'm still on canola. I've had times before, I'm sure I'm not the only one, you accidentally press the O key and, in the middle of whatever you're doing, and next thing you know, you're planting a different crop for the whole field before you figure out that you screwed up. It's kind of helpful if you're not allowed to push the O key or change the seed type once the sowing machine is turned on. Oh. Now what did I just press on to get that? What? I don't know what I pressed on. And of course, my automatic help menu goes off. GPS turn on, extra menu, keypad 0. Okay, just plain keypad. Well, I'll continue it from here and keep on going. Thank you so much for coming to good old Gelvin Valley and coming along for a chat. Oh, I got one more pass to do over there. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.